Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Practical Pet Chat. Lauren and I are always so grateful to have you join us on whatever podcast network you listen to us. Thank you for taking the time. Make sure you share us with a friend this week. Make sure you subscribe. Lauren, there are a lot of things that are either misunderstood and or myths in the pet world. And I know you and I talk about doing more of these and more of these, but there was one that hit me this week, and I reached out and said to you, we have to do this. And it's about socialization of your pets, but in particular dogs, because that's more common. And the notion was that, well, socialization is about how your dog interacts at the dog park and at doggy play dates and this and that. And I was like, that is just, you're missing the forest through the trees.
That's the tip of the
Socialization,
iceberg.
yeah, socialization for your dogs goes well beyond. So I know you get asked a lot. How do you advise folks on having a wider scope for socialization? Because you just hit it. It is the tip of the iceberg, these groups in the parks.
What's interesting is I know we call them kids, and for me, I call them kids because there are a lot of parallels to four-legged versus two-legged kids, and the reason I like uh, that comparison is because if humans would do for their four-legged kids what they bend over backwards to do for their two-legged kids to socialize them, we would have better adjusted animals. But for some reason, a lot of humans just think, it is about, oh, I can, he'll get along with the other dogs when he's out and about, and he's good and he doesn't create any trouble and things like that. But they don't think about all the other things that lead up to that. I mean, and you take a human child, and that socialization is so broad and so far reaching. Everything is about socializing them, taking them out, getting them used to environment and weather and noises and sounds and, places that you go and other people and times of the year and all of that kind of stuff. But when it comes to dogs, we just want them to be good when they're out in public. And a lot of times, back when I had my store, I used to watch whenever the door would open, the first thing I did was look at the lower half of the door because really what I care about is the animal coming through the door. And I'm reading body language and I'm reading the dog's, what he's putting off when they're
Yeah.
coming through the door, because that really tells me what's going on. And the fact that they're not barking or creating trouble when they're coming through the door doesn't mean enough to me. I need to know if the kid is stressing. I need to know if he's on guard. I need to know if he's wary, if he's, got his chest puffed out and he's looking for, he's self-protecting. What's going on in that kid's head? And it tells me a lot too, because you really can tell the difference between the dogs that are heavily socialized at every aspect of life and the kids that have only gone out to the vet, to the groomer, and maybe here or there when, the pet parent thinks, all right, I'm going to take Fluffy with me. And that's not enough. Before you know
Right.
it, that kid is 5 years old. And all the things that your toddler would have gone through in the first 10 to 12 years of their childhood life, your dog hasn't been exposed to even a tenth of that.
Yeah. And I love that you call out several things here, as usual. You're so good at getting to the heart of these things. Dogs learn through every interaction and their experiences. They also learn through the owner's experiences. And when you were just describing that, I'm looking to see what their body style and signals are before they even walk in. Like, I just wish more people had that kind of awareness. I literally just had an experience this morning where someone, an older lady had her small, black terrier. If you're listening, cool. And that dog wanted nothing to do with anybody, cute as could be. So what does everybody want to do? everybody wants, oh my gosh, let me touch, can I pet? Can I? And, you know, it was interesting because that dog, if you watched, that's what I like about what you said. If you watched, when she would stop and be looking at something, that dog got between her legs, meaning, I don't like this environment. I'm not feeling safe. I'm not feeling comfortable. And yet I heard her say to someone, oh, yeah, she goes everywhere with me. And it like, my heart sank and I was like, yeah, that's for your enjoyment because clearly
Hmm.
Fluffy is not enjoying this. And
Right.
a couple times through the store, I saw them and I was and man, you could see the dog the second someone was coming, get to the other side of her so fast. And I just felt like this is not a good experience for Fluffy. This is not what you think it is. And so, and it was a little bit of an older dog. So, I saw a few gray hairs and I'm not complaining. I got a few myself.
Well,
Uh,
and you're so right that it's about the human because how many times have you been okay with somebody coming out and touching you or putting their hand on your head, or scratching you behind the ear,
yeah. Oh
things
my
like
God,
that.
that might be my new response when someone says, oh, your dog is so cute. Bella loves ear rubs, and so do I. Not sure we go to
Yeah,
the belly rub this
it's
quick.
like, come on, I can't even count how many times I'd go up and stand next to a new dog
Oh,
coming in the store and
awesome.
just stand near them and not make eye contact and let them be able to come over and sniff me at their leisure, and get used to me without me reaching down and getting right in their face because who likes that? Nobody
Right.
likes that from a stranger. And
Yeah.
we love animals so much we don't think anything of it. And when people say, "Oh," and I would get this from, "Oh, you can pet her. It's fine." And I'm like, "I'll pet her when she's ready."
Yeah.
When she
Um,
tells me she's ready. But it's very much of like, get out of my face. I don't want you there.
well, and the approach most people take, they for some reason they go up 17 million octaves in their voice and it's like the rush. I love that you're like, how would you react? I'm going to use that
Right,
more often because that is the truth. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. There's a way to do this. I'll give you a hug. I'm a hugger, but not when you're coming at me this way. And
right.
that's how the animals feel. And that socialization aspect of it is, again, not just about animal to animal. It is, animal to human. It's the noises going on. That was the other thing that was going on. And I've had this in a couple of stores over the
Yeah.
weekend. I just felt like, wow. Um, I went to one of the big box stores and someone had one of my favorite breeds, a big, huge Great Pyrenees. And I watched the entire arc of the experience for the dog. Walking through the door, happy, glorious. Everybody turns, sees it. Oh my gosh, look at that. And within about 5-10 minutes, that dog couldn't have gotten out of there fast enough.
Right.
And unfortunately, the pet parent had no clue, was just
Mm.
reveling in how much everybody loves that, dog,
Yeah.
and that's, I know his argument would be, well, I'm socializing my dog by bringing the dog into this, big box store. And the big box store welcomes it. There's no, issues there. And I see all different kinds of, size dogs and all that. Once saw a sloth at one of these big box stores.
You did
I
not.
did, not kidding you. And
You're you're
no, I
serious.
know two people who, yeah. Now, if you're a government official, please don't reach out to me because I've forgotten who they are. But yeah,
That's
no,
crazy.
yeah, and to walk around with them, and I'm just like, it's like, who are you doing this for? The animal or yourself? Because
Themselves. It's
yeah,
the
it,
attention.
it totally was. It totally, and I
Yeah.
know one of them in particular. It's all about her. So that being said, it's like when you're, and I like that you called out too, we put a lot of effort. We know how important socialization is in the human world. And so, we can't always control that when, you're adopting an older dog. I love the senior dog world. Okay. I missed that 14-week window to really set a
Sure.
really good foundation to build for socialization. That doesn't mean I can't work through it. I just got to work at it a little bit more deliberate, a little bit slower. And I've got to realize everything about it. It's like training. Folks will go, how long does it take to train? Forever.
Hmm.
Every moment your dog is with you, you're training them, they're training you. It's the
Right.
same thing with socialization.
Like husbands.
I, I'll trust you on that one. I'm pretty sure my wife will say I'm just not trainable. He might be going I'll leave his name out of it, but a different kind of color on me. So
Yikes.
yeah, that's where Belle and I are very much the same. We got that free spirit, that wolf background, right? No, she's not giving me any credit today, man. I tell you,
Tough room, tough room.
tough room here. But that being said, you and I have talked about it in other instances where it's like, hey, read the room, understand that those changes, if we're noticing them, they were long earlier noticed by our pets. Whether it was the sounds, whether it's the energy. Have you ever seen your dog stand at the door and just put its nose up? It's reading so much farther and so much more than you can
Yeah.
process. And I love every morning, every evening. I enjoy watching Belle do that. She's reading the world for me. And I know when we're walking out, are we walking out into animals in the backyard? And are they safe animals or animals, we're going to need to keep our, heads on a swivel for? Um, that is what we're talking about. And right there, that socialization, great instance. Belle doesn't tear out the door. Belle does her, okay, I'm going to figure it out. I don't rush her out. Come on, let's go. We got to get out. It's like, okay, read everything, let me know. Okay, cool. And we go have a great experience. We can sit and stare at the moon. Sugar used to do that all the time. Every time I look up at the moon, I've done this with Belle since she did fit in my little hand. And I'd say Sugar would stomp her feet until I would look up at the moon. She was socializing me to get me to bring my energy down. So it's a two-way street in terms of, hey, everything you're doing is impacting their environment, their social skills. And so when we go to places, we're driving, we're walking, etc., it's not, oh my gosh, my dog's not socialized because she barks as we're walking towards this one house and they have a dog. That she doesn't know that that's not her a socialization feature
Right.
want as humans. She just is telling me like, hey, we're coming up on something. You need to keep, awareness here. Keep focused, Dad. And so same thing with sounds. I love when folks they'll say, wow, your dog's not really, even phased by the fireworks and all that going on.
Right. Mine either.
And it's, because I know I live by a big amusement park who's going to fire off fireworks multiple times in the evening. So that was something I worked with as a puppy. You're safe. Don't worry. You don't have to worry about that. And
Well,
she,
and that's the thing, right? That's the thing. We're not telling people not to socialize their kids. What we're telling them is be dialed into your kid.
yeah,
You
good
know,
point.
if your kid is like, I'm not comfortable here. Okay, try another day. Could be the day, could be the environment, could be something they're picking up on, something that's got them out of source. It could be that place, but you won't know that until several times later. But just, do it another time. Don't be so locked into it and do it gradually and read your kid. I mean, you can get your kid to a point where they're good at everything everywhere, but not without years of work and reading. And if you're, we talk about advocating for them all the time. This is another form of advocation. You need to be sure that you are paying attention to the environment around them and that they're dealing with it okay. And if they're not, time to go.
Right, right. Well, the other thing I want to call out too is this is not just a dog thing.
No.
Socialization is for all living beings. And so, your cats, your rabbits, your birds, all the rest of that. there are socialization things that you can and should be doing to have a better environment for all of them. And so it's not just that, well, that's why I'm not a dog parent. If you are a pet parent of any kind of pet, there are socialization things that you need to undertake. And it is not just, one specific area. This is a global approach. And you're right. That's all I'm trying to call out is I think we're shorting ourselves, we're shorting our pets if we're not looking, going, hey, this is something that you've got to expand your approach because to the plus side, there are folks who put in the effort on well, I'm going to make sure because I want to go to the dog park with them. I want them to burn off the energy and all the rest of that stuff. Um, okay, that's effort. I love seeing effort, but where are you taking that back? And you and I have talked about when I see, folks on the hiking trails and this and that, or I see people that will say, oh, no, they love everybody. Nobody loves everybody. Okay. You can't see, I mean, Lauren's nodding her head, or shaking her head, no. So, folks, this is not everybody gets along. There are people who are scared and they give off that energy. They give off that
Hmm.
reaction. We have some special needs folks that are in our family, and one of them is terrified of all things non-human. And so we know for the sake of our pets as well as for her, we have to remove them from the environment when we bring her into the environment. There's nothing wrong with that. And I
No.
think that's that other misnomer that's out there. It's just like, well, if they don't feel comfortable, they just haven't been exposed to my pet, or there's something that this person needs to learn because you can't avoid. Yeah, actually, you can. I'm here to tell you can. Okay. And you should de escalate. You don't have to escalate. A neutral is fine. You know, everybody
Well,
has their own safe space. I'm okay with that.
I was going to bring up too, look at how unsociable people have become in the last few years.
Yeah.
So when you're out and about, how you are engaging or not engaging yourself is what your dog will pick up on.
Yeah.
Your pets are deeply tied to you emotionally, and however you react to things, then they are like, oh, I need to be careful. Something's up. Mom or dad isn't comfortable. They're not communicating. They don't like it. The energy they're putting off isn't good. I need to be on guard.
Yeah.
So you need to keep that in mind too. We're less and less sociable as a species, even though we're, completely drowning in social media.
I,
It's really anti-social media, but
thank you. Yeah.
it's not how we socialize. That's not how you socialize anymore. Take a look at animals and realize that they don't have a phone in their hands, so they can't socialize that way. We probably shouldn't either.
Yeah. Well, it should not be the main source of
It
interaction.
shouldn't.
And that's where we are, sadly, for so many things. And it's funny because, you know, I what probably the biggest thing I enjoy from social media are the social media shares of pet videos and
Me
unique
too.
stories and all that. So I love that we raise awareness, we do things. You and I are on social media. Though a lot of people, and there have been some of you, I do read the occasional email. You're not very active on social media, Rob, for someone who has done so much in social media. Um, there's reasons for that, and I will always choose to be what we used to call kneecap to kneecap. Um, I want to be in the room.
Right.
I want to feel the energy. There is nothing better than that presence and that share of warmth, that share of energy that happens. That's why I get when people go, I love the dog park. There are plenty of people who don't love the dog park. There are plenty of dogs who don't love the dog park. You know, Zoe loved the dog park. Sugar did not. Sugar liked to run the around the dog park, and then when she would hear her sister squeal because she'd always get tangled up with everybody running in the pack and having a good old time, Sugar would rush in, drag her sister out of it, and we'd have to have a reset. Sugar, I'm sure, would have said to me, hey, I'm good. I don't need to go there. Zoe on there. I got to be there. That's another thing too about that whole socialization. Don't force the interactions. I see so many people trying to force the interactions when it's clear, like, hey, I've seen you at the dog park, the last, couple weeks, and your dog is trying to dig a hole out.
Right.
That's not the right place. You cannot force the socialization because you're going to get a negative outcome. So all you've really done is reinforce the negative side of it. When we adopted Belle, we were her third family. And she would do that. She would get in between my legs. She would clench onto my pant leg or my shoelace and just stand on my shoe. So she was not anywhere around me. We had to work, and I mean work, to get that socialization up. And in her case, it wasn't just socialization. It was, I want you to have the best life you can have. And I remember working with the trainer, and she's like, this is going to take a long time. She's got some trauma. And we knew that her ear had been practically torn off by a particular breed of dog, which I love, and have had in my family many times. So forcing interactions of, nah, Belle, you're just going to go out and do it. Now Belle holds her own. Belle, that exact breed of dog is our neighbor's dog. And they run the fence line and they play with each other. And there are times I'll see they both got their paws underneath the fence and holding paws. And, it's like, if you do this right and you take the effort and a ton of patience, you can unlock some really wonderful things for these living beings. And I will go a step further and say these loving beings, because most, if not all of these beings, are loving beings. That's what they're interested in. It's what we're giving off, what we're forcing, what we're mandating that, skews the experience and changes the outcomes many times to the opposite of what a lot of folks are trying to achieve. And so that's my soapbox for today of socialization is more than, can I go to the dog park? Can I be in the dog walker group? It is your environment. It is their anxiety, all the different things that go on within their life. That is the socialization that you've got to be aware of and got to be putting time in. I'll give you the last thought.
I got nothing more on this one because I think we could go for another couple hours.
So true. So true. I'm sure we
So
will continue to circle back on this. Speaking of circling back, folks, what do you do when it comes to socialization? What tips do you have? What's been successful for you all? What have been some of the challenges that you've had to address? Reach out to us, practicalpetchat@gmail.com. Share your thoughts, your comments. If you've got a different topic or something that you saw that you have, wow, I'm glad Rob is not here with me right now because this would be an episode. Send us that email. Lorin wants to read that, and then she'll share that and say, yes, we should definitely talk about this. You've been doing a great job. You can reach out to us on any of the social media networks, on any of the podcast platforms that you all use, or the vidcast as well. Thank you so much for joining us here on Practical Pet Chat. It's a lot easier to say, apparently. Give yourself grace. It takes time, as we talked about throughout this episode. You're doing a great job. Continue working with your pets. They appreciate it, and we appreciate you. We'll see you next week.
thanks, guys.
The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended as, nor should it be construed as, professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment for your pets. Always seek the advice of a qualified veterinarian with any questions you may have regarding your pet's health or medical condition. Never disregard professional veterinary advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. The hosts and the guests of this podcast are not liable for any actions taken based on the information shared during these episodes. Any reliance on the information provided is solely at your own risk. Copyright 2025 Practical Pet Chat, all rights reserved. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or reproduction of any content from this podcast, including but not limited to audio, scripts, and show notes, is prohibited without prior written consent. The opinions and views expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Practical Pet Chat.